Welcome to the Dr. Sarah Experience podcast show, where we talk with some of the most amazing beings who are currently creating and shaping today's culture. And I'm your host, Dr. Sarah. Jason Linton from Altus, Oklahoma, or otherwise known as Dad Life Jason on TikTok and Instagram, is a husband and father of 3 children. As the patriarch of a multiracial family, he uses his platform to share family moments and experiences. For Jason, it is important to show the love and tenderness of fatherhood and parenting in the Black community. From random acts of kindness to music jam sessions, he and his family focus on spreading positivity through their content. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Jason to the show. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad and excited and happy that you've joined us today. And I'm curious to know, this is how I always like to start the show. I'm curious to know where this dialogue could go, and really looking at it, not as like an interview, but just as like a conversation.
Yeah.
From which we can explore so much.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Wow. And so I figure we can just jump right in. Like, we don't need to hold back at all because we're keeping it real, right?
Yes.
Real time, real life. And that's
exactly.
That's how you like to roll, huh?
Yeah, exactly. There's no pause button for real life.
Oh, I hear ya. And so, speaking of real life, what if we start with just going into a dialogue about family and anything that you would like to share off the bat with that?
Well, my family, from what most people can see on social media, my family is quite diverse. I am African American / I guess you can say Jamaican American, because my parents are from Jamaica. I'm the first generation born in America, in the States. And so we have that little bit of background. My wife is Caucasian, and her family came over here, good Lord, on the Mayflower, probably.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think they can trace all the way back. But me and my wife, we were married after we, met each other on social media. It's funny. So like now our life is like on social media. But we became very, very good friends. And we got married. We were like, hey, this person is perfect for me. We're best friends. We're always laughing. And when we tried to start a family, we faced some difficulties with infertility. And we just, one day, she came to me, she said, what do you think about going into foster care so that we can just show the kids some love? And I'm like, oh, I was a little bit scared, but I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do that. And we jumped into there and we fostered 11 children. And out of the 11, we adopted 3. And the 3 that you'll see on the videos is Lillian. She's the youngest. She just turned 6. There's Christian, who just turned 10. And Harper, who is 12, going on 13 in December. So, yeah.
Amazing. Wow. And so going back to the fostering piece, tell the audience a little bit more about that, what that was like for you, or even that decision. Like you said, it was almost like a surprise possibility. Yeah,
it was a surprise possibility. It was kind of scary. Our first sibling group we took on, and I was obviously scared. I'm a dad all of a sudden in the foster sense, but you're just a dad. That's all you are. And just to try to manage that, knowing, okay, I have this kid or these children that come through, and I absolutely go head over heels for them. Like the car seats, the buckles, the child safety, all of that stuff. Like you go full bore into that. And then there's a possibility that there's a knock on the door and then they'll go back or they'll go someplace else. And that was a very difficult dynamic to deal with going into it, because a lot of people, they say, oh, I could never do foster care because I'd get too attached. That's the point. Like I got very, very attached. There were some very, very difficult days having 11 go through. And so that means that more went through than got to stay. And that was very, very difficult for us. But it was something that I'll hold dear in my heart as something that I feel like I gave something out to someone that needed it. And I gave myself a lot of purpose in those moments where the door opens up, you don't know who's going to be on the other side, but I had to put myself in their shoes and be like, okay, this door is going to open. They're going to look up and see this gigantor guy and they don't know me. And I have to smile because that's scary. Like, you're with your family, as dysfunctional as it is, it's your life, you know? And then all of a sudden it gets upended and you show up at my house and I'll open the door. And my job is to make you as comfortable as possible and to make you feel like you're safe. And those dynamics were something to work through. It really was.
Wow. Yeah. In the moment on both sides where you're bringing them into your home, and that's a huge change. And then they're showing up to you in a way, coming from a place that was pretty heavy and negative, I'm sure, to land in your place, and two people coming together and as beings. It's like, wow, as you describe it, it just, I get the read how intense that was.
Yeah, it was one of the things, the main thing that made that possible, because I'm more of an introvert. I keep to myself. I'm very risk assessing. I make sure everybody's safe. I know what's okay, this can go bad. This can hurt somebody. And so that makes me more of a withdrawal type of a person, where my wife is very extroverted, extremely extroverted. And she's got a lot of love, a lot of compassion in her heart. She also did a lot of missions work when we lived elsewhere. We lived in Florida, and she went and she took care of homeless people, did food drives, did all of this stuff. So that's her life. Like, she loves doing stuff like that. So when she brought up the foster care thing with me, I was like, you would, you know? I'm like, yeah, you would. And so when those doors open up, I'm kind of a little bit more guarded, but open, but a little bit more guarded, because I can see all of the red tape and the bureaucracy in there and all those things that I have to deal with, where she is like, come on, let me show you your new room. So to have her, she's kind of the blanket of our family. When they came in initially and they were scared, she was just Big Mama putting her arms around them and just breaking down those walls, those feelings of intimidation that I kind of give off. Like, I can't help it, like, because I'm big and I'm an imposing figure. I am. And so I'm cognizant of that. And so to have her there by my side to be disarming has been I think that's the only thing that makes it work, really.
Wow. Well, it sounds like the two of you make a perfect balance and space where it comes together and you're both a contribution in your own way. Like, I sense you pick up on things and you're highly aware, probably even more than what meets the eye. Like, you pick up on things. Is that correct? Like, you get a vibe or a sense or an energy, spoken or unspoken. And she's just kind of moves right into that, and you'll step back and observe it more, it sounds like. But that's like an amazing balance.
Yeah, my mentality is, I think connectively. I know that there's no issue and there's no problem that happens that's the root of its own being. Everything is connected to something else. A behavior, an outburst, an outcry, everything's connected to something else. And my, not so much as I try to make it my job, but it just is who I am, that I'll look and I'll say, there's something more behind this. And so I'm not going to react in the same way like another parent would. Like, the kid goes ahead and hauls off and says something or breaks something. And they're like, I can't believe you did that. You picked it up and put it back right now. And I'm like, okay, there's some trauma here that just got revisited by either something that I said, something that smelled some way, a dish that was prepared. There's something connected to it. And that's the main thing when dealing through foster care and even adoption is many cases, and in our case, that's the truth. In many cases, there's a life that's before you. There's an existence of parenting that goes on before you. And even with Lillian, she came home with us from the hospital, but there is learning that happened in the womb before we were present. There's sounds, there's noises, there's the tension of her biomom's body being channeling into her. So there's things that we know that will happen, that we'll know, hey, this is not from us. This is not from this situation, but we need to see how it connects.
Yes, like you're highly aware of where it's stored in memory, even in the body or in the being, like that our bodies are like psychic sponges and they absorb things. And
Yeah.
a lot of times that's where trauma comes from, is it's not the same thing happening, but it's an energy that's triggered or frequency in the moment that sets it off. And amazing you for being so in tune to that, to know there's something more that a lot of times, even in general, as people, we're picking up other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions all the time that aren't ours. So it's great for you as a parent to be so in tune and so aware, especially for these beings that may have had a little more intense entrance into this reality that now can move through it. I'm getting chills with ease and calm. And I love how you show up to that. It's just what a beautiful thing.
It's a great thing to have. And the cool thing about it is, while you're in the whole machine of foster care, they help you. So many people go in, and it's like that movie, Instant Family. Everybody is naive. I don't care how well educated you could be, a doctor of whatever. You're gonna go into there, you're gonna be naive. It is what it is. If you've never done it before, you are naive, even if you're very well informed. And and one of the things is, they help so many people that come into there, because some people have more resources than others when it comes to foster care. Some people that come in, they're very wealthy. They may have a mansion that they're taking these kids into, and so they feel like it's a Daddy Warbucks situation. And some people only have what they have, and they have the reserves in their psyche and in their spirit to give. And that's also a healthy situation. And so to see that all these people from these wide roads come in, the establishment knows, okay, we need to inform everybody what they may see, what they may experience, and know not to take it personal. Know that this is what goes behind this. And some people do back out. And I think it's there to kind of help them inform people, so that they weed out some of the people that may be going into it thinking, this is for me to be validated as a parent because I need to be a daddy or a mommy. And that's not what it's about. And
that'll last about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's going to birth more trauma. Like, how much more can a kid handle? And so you come into it, and they really do a really great job through media, through videos, to psychologically connect us with the journey that's ahead of us. And even after we get that, we still are like, what's going on?
Yeah. But, probably each individual brings in a whole new piece to the puzzle of how to show up anyways. I can just imagine, because everyone has their own personalities, and them being probably amazing beings themselves, just being themselves and just getting together personality wise can just be a factor, I'm sure, too.
It is. And they tell us, one of the graces that they give us to have on ourselves, they tell us not every child that comes into your home is going to be a match. You don't have to have the burden of feeling like this must work out because all like one size fits all. It's not that. Sometimes you are not equipped to handle or to take care of a child's needs. Yeah. And it just is what it is. For whatever reason, it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you don't have enough money or anything like that. But sometimes their trauma can kind of trigger your trauma. And it's a little bit deep for you to go into those waters. It's like you being a lifeguard and you can barely swim. And so you kind of have to, you got to back out and just let them know, hey, these are my challenges that I'm having. Do you have someplace else or another family that's better suited? And they give you the tools to inform them. So you write down all the instances or the incidents that happen, and it helps them form a picture of this child to give them better care. So.
Wow. And then that's really helpful for you to know going into it, and since you, with that information, receive so much and can be with that, it can help navigate the field, so to speak. And over what period of time did you end up fostering the 11 individuals?
Wow. I'd say I think it was 4 years.
Wow.
In 4 years. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I think my wife will shout out from the background. Honey, Okay, so I think she's off with the kids right now.
Oh,
But I
that's
do believe
fine.
I believe it's between 4 and 5 years.
Yeah.
That we had 11 kiddos. So the house was busy. We had one, two, three, four sibling groups.
Wow.
One was a set of twins that was very challenging. But just like how we were just talking, and we were talking about how they kind of give you a picture written down of, the children and the care that you're going to go ahead and try to tailor them for. Sometimes the kids come and you don't even know their real names because they're too young to tell you, and they're kind of the establishment is kind of caught in limbo as to what information. So they're like, investigation is ongoing, but so we come up with, we're like, okay, you're Bubba 1, you're Bubba 2, you're like, how would you like to be called? And and it happens like that. Sometimes it takes a week to figure out a kid's name, but you provide care and you do the best you can.
You know what? You make it work. And that's what I sense as part of this too, is like, and you're willing to take that risk and that leap into it because you know what you're providing is such a great contribution. It's much bigger than we can even comprehend, that these individuals don't have a place to be, and you're providing that space. And when we actually look at it like that, it's like, I hear you go into almost like whatever it takes, we'll make this work. And, or if it doesn't, we're going to figure out the next step. Like you have to be very present in the moment. That's for sure.
Yeah. You, I have like, I don't know if it's an analogy, but it's this. You have to be, in some sense, you have to be comfortable with feeling lost, but in your being lost, you're still capable. You have to be confident in your capabilities while you're lost, because it's a whirlwind. You'll see parents come in and they'll be driving high dollar cars, and they'll open the door and they'll be doing their best, and it's just tough. You see them like, okay, time to get back in the car. And then there's this big like explosion and everybody's watching. And I think that's one of the hardest things in doing foster care and caring for kids, even your own, is when you get to a point where a trauma is revisited that you're not aware of, and it shows up in a behavior, is that everybody's staring at you. And that's something tough for me and my family, because we're so diverse. We already get looks. So when there's like this type of behavior that's happening, everybody's staring, and I'm like, it's okay. I'm not kidnapping this kid. It's something you got to kind of be aware, but you got to be okay with being lost in the moment.
And I love that description. It's such a good, fitting way to describe it. And what's popping as you're saying that too, is that this constant change in place. And a lot of times when we do it by choice, it's lighter. And sometimes these things come in, like you never know how it's going to show up.
Yeah.
And you have to just be prepared and ready and go with the flow of it. And also this has come up on previous shows, but this idea of being willing and open to receiving judgment. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm personally not a being that does judgment. And I can tell you off the bat, no judgment zone. But there are people out there that do like to judge. And I like to thank them actually for their judgment. And it tends to not go anywhere, which is great. But you have to be open to be like, yeah, go ahead, judge me.
Yeah. It's for me, I think I have the luxury of maturity through age and experience. When I was younger, oh my gosh, in my 20s, Judge City, like super judgmental. Because it was like, to be a person that has come from a very rough area was like a badge of honor. And so if that was your only point of pride, then you had to measure yourself against somebody else at all times. And that was your only, so it was almost like chasing dopamine almost. So you feel bad about yourself, you have to find somebody that's doing worse, and then it'll give you like that little boost. And that's not, it doesn't have any longevity behind it. It's not healthy. It's not mentally healthy. But one of the things a friend of mine told me a long time ago, they were like, I like you. They said, you seem like a good person. But they said, but you're going to get a better view of the world after you suffer. And I'm like, I don't want to suffer. Who wants to suffer? They said you need to suffer. And after you suffer, you'll become the right person that you need to be. And I suffered between those years and becoming a dad, and even through becoming a father. There's been a lot of suffering that's happened. And who hasn't suffered over the 2020, 2019, 2020, 21, you know?
I hear you.
Yeah, there's been it's a lot of trauma. Everybody has lived in this traumatic bubble together in a way. And so there's not really a way to escape that. But in that, I find like for everything, there's something behind it. And if there's something behind it, that person might not be responsible for the thing that they're doing. And it even causes me to, in a roundabout way, become compassionate for the people that are judging, because they're looking and they're making, this judgment. And I'm like, you guys don't even know. And I don't wish this on you.
Yep.
But I hope you learn that you can use that energy to support people that are going through the tough times, than to sit back and just reserve all of this energy and use it negatively. It doesn't help you. And I know that firsthand.
I was just going to say that it sounds like when you were younger, it was almost like survival too, where if you're surrounded by, this is how people function, and you do what they do in order to try to get through this life and living, and then realize at some point, like, wow, like I almost hear, like, for you, like, that's not me. That wasn't you even then. And it came to this part where you had a moment of, I guess you could say, like, awakening to this awareness that you don't require that. In fact, it wasn't you. And you're also able to see that in other people, that they're not being themselves, or some people do function that way, and that's up to them. But it's more like you're being the difference in the world to create the lightness and the choice to be it. So I don't know if that adds to what you were just saying.
Yeah, it does, because I feel like it takes a conversation where somebody does that for you, where you're kind of feeling pompous or self-reliant and feeling full of yourself. And then somebody just comes and shows up a real mirror, and the mirror is clean, and you get to see all the dirty spots. And you're like, oh, I really thought that I was something. And because of my thinking I'm something, I'm looking down at everybody, but they look up and they see all my nose hairs. they can see all the unmentionables up there that I'm not proud of. Well, maybe I need to get down to their level as far as giving them dignity, not coming down because anybody's beneath me. Nobody really is beneath you. You can see somebody there doing the Skid Row thing, whatever it is, level of suffering that they're going through. They're not beneath you. They just might have that level of dignity be removed from their own psyche. And if I can, in my own way, replace or replenish that dignity in their psyche and make them see themselves as who they could be, then that's pretty good, because somebody did that for me. And that's the job that I have doing foster care and now adoptive parenting. So.
Wow. And that's a beautiful way of describing it. And you're like the invitation for people to join you, because you're being it. And a lot of times when we're being it, people receive it more by choice rather than it forced upon them. Or like even the amazing work you're doing, not only as a parent and fostering and all those fantastic things, you're also going into the world of social media and rocking it there, and providing a space where people can join you and you light up their life. I can tell the moment I saw you, like that's, you just shine. So,
I appreciate that.
It's such a gift, and I want to acknowledge you for that. And maybe this is a great time to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the social media thing I feel like it's something that I've tried before through different channels. And because I wanted to show everybody what I could do. Because I was younger, I'm like, I could do music. I'm amazing. Or I can play piano. I want to, I'm funny. I want you to laugh at me. And I try to do all those things. And the purpose of it was really a lot of self-gratification. And And then I was a teacher's aide for the special education department in the town that we live in now. And these kids were doing these dances and making all these jokes, cultural references that were way over my head. And I was like, gosh, I am old. I'm there. I'm officially there. I don't understand these kids. This is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm my dad. And so I'd ask them, I'm like, what are you guys like? What are you on about? And they're like, it's a TikTok. I'm like, it's a what? And they'd say, it's a TikTok. I'm like, okay, what is a TikTok? And so they told me. I went home and I downloaded it and I watched this explosion of creativity from everyone. It was mostly kids at that time. And I'm like, these kids are funny as heck. This is crazy. Like, oh my gosh, this is better than TV. There's like sketch comedy and everything on here. And it was like all uplifting and positive. Mm-hmm. And I sat down and I talked with my wife. I said, honey, if we take an hour out of our day, if you give me an hour out of my day to invest my time into this TikTok thing, I said, I think I can make it something special for our family to share our story with a lot of other people. And she was like, it's another social media platform that you're going to try. And I'm like, I promise I won't overdo it. I'm going to be okay. Maybe we might get like a couple thousand followers and that'll be amazing. Like we'll have made it. And she was like, yeah. She was like, okay. And she was just behind me. She was like, what do you need? She'd like go out and buy me stuff. And I started using that to just connect and to have the same conversation. So it's like this big inside joke. I'd go to school, the kids would make jokes and they'd say something. And then I'd repeat it and say like the end of it. And they'd look and go, oh, you're on TikTok. I'm like, yeah. I had no following. And one day I did a video with Lillian, and it was a kind of a split screen with Charlie D'Amelio, who's the biggest TikToker out there. Yeah. And I did that video and Charlie D'Amelio commented it and it blew up. The video went to 1 million. It got like 1 million views in a few hours. Wow. And so I went to bed, and when I woke up the next morning, I had 14,000 followers. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I went to school and the kids started crowding around me. They're like, Charlie D'Amelio commented. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. But through that journey, you get a taste of fame. You get a taste of acknowledgement. You get a taste of the negative as well. But in that, it became something that I was like, we can tell the story because people have questions. Why is she white? Why are you black? What happened to your kids? What's going on? Who is his wife? And they had all these questions. And so through the media, we started using TikTok to tell our story in a comfortable way that we didn't feel like too exposed, because it's hard to tell those stories and like, because not everybody's going to take it in a way that's going to dignify you. And so we wanted to do it in a way that restored dignity in our family, and it turned into what it is now. And it's not just funny skits and music, but sometimes it's just me telling what it felt like to come home from the hospital with this redheaded baby, or what it felt like to introduce her to her siblings when they finally came through the door, what it felt like to hear my son say his first words because he has a speech delay, what it felt like to see my daughter, who's very introverted, stand on stage the first time and dance in front of 100 people. Like, those things are things that don't alienate us, no matter how much followers we have. Every parent can relate to stuff like that. And it's what I think brings a community together. It's a beautiful community to be a part of.
It's so relatable, and the way that you are bringing it in, people are able to receive it. And I love the way you do it too, because you're combining all the different mediums like music, humor, play, fun, ease, and people are receiving it. Like, your videos can be even 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds long, and it tells a story, and it's like an ongoing story, and it's very beautiful to witness that and see that. And I see, and like you said, it's a venue from which people can receive it, and kind of in today's age of like, you're lucky if you get 7 seconds of attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Focus, but that's really fascinating. And what's it been like you? Well, when did it actually take off for you? When was that time?
Oh man. I think the time that it really, I don't know, it's weird. There's been seasons of growth where, so you can't, like, right now I'm at the unconscionable number of 8.7 million. I don't know how, like,
Yes.
it's something I never imagined, ever. I never imagined I'd get more than 100,000. One, I guess the point where it became a place of like really, really big growth was during the pandemic, which was very traumatizing for everybody.
Yes.
Especially traumatizing towards my family because it happened in the midst of a political season, which, because of how my family looks, we got some not nice attention during that time that we didn't even garner because I don't talk about politics at all.
Yeah.
But people make their assumptions, and so they sent the ugliness our way. But one of the cool things was everybody, in a sad way, it's not cool because it's suffering, but it was cool because it brought us together. And so the fear of what's happening next, where's the pandemic? We had a lot of people reaching out to us while we did our live streams on TikTok that they were like, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And me and my wife was like, hey, we'll pray. We don't have to keep it a specific religious format. We'll just pray. And I'll pray for these people at the end of my lives. And I'll like sing like a spiritual type song in there to kind of, give people a little bit of peace and not to like, bombard them with any type of specific message, but other than like you're cared for, you're loved, you matter. And when we started doing that, we started seeing a lot of growth and a lot of people coming into our inboxes and just saying, hey, this is going on. My father's sick, or I just lost my aunt. Can you just pray for me for peace? And so we started doing that a lot. But the big push was right at, I'd say, the apex of the pandemic. We had a big mental health crisis. And I think it's kind of a sleeping mental health crisis going forward now that a lot of people don't know that they're going through until school starts. It's going to manifest. But I'm just waiting, and it's not going to be pretty, but I'm just going to be able to help if I can. I want to be available. But at that time, we started seeing a lot of kids going through anxiety, a lot of thoughts or ideations of suicide being used in the messaging because they didn't know how to say it. And so they used it as their voice. And so people came in with support. Well, one of my videos that I did, it was with me and Lily, and I think it was the song that we did was Ocean Eyes by Billie Eilish, who I love and I hope to meet one day. Lillian loved this song, and she curled up on my arm, and it was after a really rough day emotionally for her. And so she just like snuggled into my shoulder, and I just did that song, and she just stayed there and rocked with me, and I rocked with her. A lot of people saw that and they said, you remind me of my dad that I lost. Or they sent messages to my Instagram and they say, I was going to take my life today. And for some reason I came across this video and it made me, I felt like I was that little girl getting hugged in the video. And I was like, it was hundreds of those messages. And that's when I knew there is a bigger purpose to this TikTok other than being famous or garnering a lot of support or attention. It was to let people know that they're cared for. And in the way, it kind of was me being the face of my wife's persistent thoughts, because that's her. Like, she will get out of the car and run over to the side of the road to go and help somebody. And like, while I'll be like, they might be crazy, like, don't do that, they might hurt you, stay inside the car. And she'd be like, unlock the door, I'm going. And so it was a real way for both of our ideologies to marry in a way that was effective towards the help of so many people that were out there.
Well, I'm just in awe of that. And what a gift and a contribution again that is. And I sense what we're talking about here too is tapping into that energy of common space where people are just being. And you were holding your daughter and that energy, and people could be in that space with you and receive it. it's like we don't have to be in the same room to receive each other and to be in the kindness of others. And those of us who resonate that way, it can go across the world. It can go way beyond what we can see and way beyond this world. And so you're using common space for people, prayer, that seems pretty available to everyone to tap into that and be that. And as simple as it was, it's like, I'm getting chills down my back. It was so profound. And wow, saved lives.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, one day I had a really really tough day. It was after the whole thing that happened with George Floyd, and I saw a lot of messaging that was very hurtful towards me. That was just out in the world, things that I was observing, things that I was hearing in lines at Walmart, and I was just like, I felt like this profound feeling of I don't belong anywhere.
Wow.
And I come home and I get on there and I said, you know what, let me check my inbox. And it was just letter after letter after letter. Parents that were going to take their own lives. A lot of teens that were going through issues. And I was just like, I do belong someplace.
Yeah.
I belong here. And one of the big problems that we have in social media and in technology, people tend to use the distance that the screen provides as a way to look at the other person as they don't deserve dignity because they're not in front of you. They, like, you know, they say keyboard warriors go ahead and talk a lot of mess because they feel tough behind the keyboard. But I don't think that it's because they feel tough. I believe it's because they don't see the pain in the other person's face. They don't see, when you say something to somebody and you see them break down in front of you and you own it, that you're the one that caused this reaction, it is very humbling.
Yeah.
And so through social media and through TikTok and the unique way that they do things that are so much, I feel it's more emotive than a lot of other platforms. Not that I'm sticking up for them, you know, exclusively, but just the way that they did it and the way that they allowed my audience to come to me, it tore down that distance. It let people see. I did a couple of TikToks where I cried on it. It let people become a part of your emotion, and then it gives dignity to you. You get to share that space of dignity with each other. And I think it allowed people to become a little bit more kinder.
Yeah.
There's people, they make you upset. People say things, people aren't careful. But when you're on social media and the social media starts to reconnect those ties of humanity between us, we can see somebody suffering and not say, hey, it's their own fault. They should have did this. You look at them, you're like, what if that was me? Or you hear somebody crying out for help and you're like, I wish I could reach through the phone and help them. That helps you in your own life. When you turn off the phone and you go outside the house and you see somebody struggling, I think it helped the world in a way to turn away from where they were going, where everybody was being angry at each other and like tearing each other's dignity away.
It's definitely opening up a space of possibilities now and removing more of the problematic way where, again, there will be people that do that. And these platforms, though, allow for greater connection, greater kindness to come together in a way that it wouldn't be available unless we had that.
Yeah.
So, and it's individuals like you, amazing beings like you, that are willing to be the voice and willing to put yourself out there and be vulnerable. I see vulnerability as not like a resistance. It's like barriers down, nothing to hit up against. You're just keeping it real, being real. And people who are doing this influencing work like yourself, I sense the followers and people following are just going to see through it too. Yeah. They're looking for the genuine beings. And it's such a beautiful gift that you and your family are being, and you in particular. It's just, wow. And you're seeing how it makes a difference, even when we're in our lower time as well, because we all, these things show up. We have a mind where we have thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And those are things we're meant to clear all the time because it can build up and get really heavy.
Yeah,
And that's
they
a lot of
definitely.
things of what I do with clients is help clear the mind, clear your energy so you have more space just to be and have choice. And you're actively doing that all the time. And
Yeah,
I sense your family keeps you on your toes with it too.
yeah, they do. It's funny sometimes. Like there's the ways that my parents raised me
Mm.
versus the way that their parents raised them versus the way that I'm raising my children is drastically different. But it doesn't mean that sometimes those ways don't show up in the things that you're saying or in your attitude or your reaction to something happening. One of
Yes.
my favorite things that I shared, which was very humbling, was my daughter dropped an iPhone in the toilet while she was using it. Didn't tell me, and she told mom, and she said I was scared to tell him because I don't want him to be mad at me. She's
Mm.
6, and so when she told me, I started a lecture, and she's 6, and I started this lecture, and my wife brings me to the laundry room. She was like, "You're lecturing a 6-year-old about a phone," and I'm like, well, she needs to know the worth of hard work, and somebody worked hard to get that phone, and da 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 da. And she was like, really? Like, it's a 6-year-old. And she didn't want to tell you because she was afraid that you'd be angry. And I had to go and chew on that in my room. And I was like, I don't like to be wrong. Who likes to be wrong, right? And like, and I go to the room and I'm like, crap, I am wrong. And so I came out and I apologized. And I was like, I don't want you to be afraid of telling me anything that has happened or anything that you did, even if it's your fault. Like, you already felt bad about it already. So why do I need to, lecture you? But I try to tell you, hey, just don't take your phone to the toilet anymore. Like, and then in the end of it all, the very next day, somebody a friend of ours reached out to us. They're like, hey, I got an iPad mini. You guys need one? And I'm like, why was I a jerk yesterday? And I'm getting something even better for her today. And it doesn't even matter. And she already knew the thing was worth something. And I had to go and make her feel even worse about it. And so there's points where they keep me on my toes and they help me to revise or edit myself. And here comes the authority right now.
Wise. I'm really wise. That's all. Okay.
I can hear that. What a contribution.
Okay. Yeah, but
well, what I love about that too is you took it in and you weren't resistant to receiving that. And so
internally I may have been,
you were fighting a little bit. But
yeah.
you took a moment, you sat with it, reflected on it, and then you showed up differently, created something greater. And I'm aware of that's how a lot of things happen. Like something heavy comes in, it may look like a mistake or a wrongness. And then all of a sudden it opens up something over here that wouldn't have been there before if that event didn't happen. So how much this actually created so much greater as a result of going through that and really showing up again these shows as a father to wrong the right to your daughter in a way that's such a miraculous unfolding. So, and from that, then more came from it, and then came the iPad.
I find myself to be, I'm extremely fortunate. Not a lot of people afford themselves a chance to get a do-over. So many people, they entertain the thoughts that come in that say, you're a bad parent. Why did you do this? And then they condemn themselves and they don't even give themselves a chance to get it right. And that's really difficult because so many people don't know. Just because you're thinking it doesn't mean that you thought it on purpose or that it's a real thought. Your brain has a job and it makes thoughts. Yeah. And so it's it's up to you to be intentional with your consciousness and say, hey, this thought ain't really real. That's not real. Let me interrupt this and let me go ahead and fix this issue because I can. And I can go ahead and speak life into our kids and do, I guess I can call it, make a new legacy of understanding. And I don't always get it right, as you can hear from the example. But I feel like if I share my story like that, that it'll give a lot of other parents a chance to give themselves a chance. Because that's all like kids need. Like you think about having a situation like that, and then my daughter going to sleep on those feelings, dreaming, because your brain is going to create dreams to solidify what happened during the day so you can understand it more. And then you get up with this new dogma that, hey, if I do something, my daddy's going to come down hard on me, so I better hide it now. And I got a chance to get in at the ground floor and to revise that. And the last thing before nighttime, she came up to me with her iPad in her hand and her finger in her mouth, and she gave me a big hug. She was like, I love you, Daddy. Oh. And, I stay there and I'm like tough, and I'm like, oh, I love you too, honey. She was like, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I was like, it's okay, baby. You can tell me anything. I'm not going to get mad. And then she runs off and goes to her bed, and I'm sitting there like, I could have lost that. Wow. If I got full of myself. Yep. And thank God that I have a wife that will check me when she hears me doing something that's essentially wrong. It's not healthy. So. And
she also knows when there's probably you not being you fully. She'll pick up on that, where she's aware that may be coming from somewhere else, or there's this interesting state or like word that describes kind of what you're speaking to. There's this thing called biomimic mimicry, where we absorb everything when we're little up to about 6 to 8 years old. And a lot of times later in life, something will trigger it. And it's that point where you're like, oh my gosh, I just acted like my father. The last thing I want to be like my father or my mother. When that's biomimic mimicry, we mimic what we're around, and it can come out in different ways later in life. So what we can do with it is clear it, change it. And that's exactly what you did. You rewrote it. You created something greater from something that could have been an ongoing limitation, but wasn't. So kudos to you.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the opportunity to have had that.
It's such a gift, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And you and your wife make quite a duo.
I really like, she says it more than me. Like, she's like, I'm married up. I'm like, no, I'm married up. Like, we've been through so much things. Like, we live in a nice home now. We have some space, a big yard in the background. And that's really nice, but it's not always been like that. We were in the height of the pandemic, a family of 5 in a 2-bedroom apartment, just trying to make it, and going out into a hostile world every single day. It really made us know where to place our values. It made us know, like, even though there's some struggles that are going on externally, it's super important to identify when our behavior is a result of the external pressure and doesn't have anything to do with anybody inside the home. And we probably get that wrong more often than not, but to actually have the time to remember, oh, I'm upset because this happened, not because my kid dropped a glass on the floor and it shattered into a million pieces. It's a 2-cent glass. I'm sweeping it up and I'm keeping my kid safe from stepping on it. But it really, like, I think that's a lesson that a lot of parents should get out there a lot more, because it's going to help us as we're getting back into this back to school season, that there's going to be some external pressures going to be exerted on us, and we're going to react in a certain way. And we need to be able to have grace on ourselves and say, hey, this isn't because of me. It's because I had to stay in line for meet the teacher for 2 hours. And then they went to lunch or they went someplace. And so my semi meltdown is not because of my kid. It's not because, it's just, I'm scared. We're going back to school. The pandemic is like rearing up. Like, I'm afraid, and it's okay.
It's okay. And we're not alone in going through it. And I get exactly what you're saying. A lot of times for people, it's like a misdirecting of what's really going on. Like, worldly concerns, time, space, and this reality is really dense and heavy, and how it can carry over to these other things. I think there's an analogy of like kicking the dog. It's kind of like similar thing where that's where we're meant to be diligent all the time, of getting clear, having time to clear our minds and have space so we can show up to the ones we love and to the world in a way that gives us ease and relief. And is there anything, I mean, on that note too, is there anything that you personally do that allows you to have you time, or to maybe get clear on the things that sometimes can get heavy? Or
one of our things that me and my wife talked about during the early parts of our foster care was we actually got rid of social media for a while, namely Facebook, because it had been the source of a lot of arguments. So we're like, we're gonna not do Facebook for 5 months, 6 months. We gained a lot of peace from that. And so we went further and we said, you know what? Let's put away TV for a while. We got babies coming in the house. We really we don't have time to do TV between the babies, the court, the parental meetings, all of that stuff. And so we shut that down. In those times, we learned that it's important that you maintain the peace in your home. You maintain the noise levels in your house. And noise levels aren't just, oh, this music is too loud. Noise levels means there's a lot of opinions that are out there. There's a lot of people that are making statements. And when people are busy making statements, you're busy not thinking. You're busy absorbing it. And you're taking on what they have to say. Whether you may believe it initially or not, you start to take things in. Yeah. And so in my home, I don't really watch news in front of my children. I don't really watch news on the big TV. I like watch it on my phone because I don't want to expose my children to all the unsteadiness that's happening in the world. And the news doesn't inspire stability anymore. It used to give you something at the end of the day where you're like, oh, that's nice. I was afforded the opportunity to talk to Nicole Burley at News Nation, and she did a piece on me for Father's Day. And I was like, I didn't know news stations did this anymore. Like, this is wholesome. But like in my home, me and Patience make sure, Patience is my wife's name, we make sure that we don't flood our atmosphere with things that are unwholesome or things that are just of the world that are happening out there. Like, this place blew up, this place is on fire, all of this stuff, because the kids don't need to be exposed to that. And neither do we, because we're just as much sponges as they are. But
it's really heavy, dense energy that is not contributing. You'll get the information you require from which you can choose things, but all of that, it's almost just chatter, dissonance, and really
a lot of dissonance. And so what that affords us as a baseline atmospherically in our house, it allows us to graduate to a deeper connection with one another at times. So at any point during the day, Patience will say, hey, honey, you got time to talk real quick? And I do have a lot of things going on a lot of the times, but it doesn't mean I don't have time to talk. And I say, hey, I got 10 minutes before the Zoom call or something. And it's easy. I can step right into that. It's not like, honey, we need to talk. Okay. I have to have this big decompression cycle and all of that. I don't have that. And that's a very big privilege to have in a home that can be quiet.
Well, and this is a testament to what the two of you are creating together. Like, you're greater when you come together. Yeah. And you're two amazing beings. And I like to look at it when we're 20 times greater when we're with that other being. It's like, okay, we got something going on. And I sense that's what the two of you have. And I oftentimes like to refer to things like that or relationships like that as creationships.
Yeah, I like that.
Isn't it good? Like, you got a creationship going on.
Yeah, I like that, creationship. And she gives me me being an introvert and growing up the way that I did not know how to talk about my feelings. I did not know how to bring them to the surface. And I really did not know how to be good at introspection because I was scared of what I would discover. So I don't want to dive deep and find even more things, what I call wrong with me. But as I'm older now, I know when I dive deep and I find something that's discontent, or I find something that's dysfunctional, it's just someplace that I've discovered that I can bring healing to and have grace for myself because she has grace for me in that moment. And so there's times where me and her might, what she calls it, a heated fellowship, where we have a disagreement, but we don't go to bed mad. Like, we'll have this disagreement, but there's logic behind it. There's a lot behind it. So if we give each other the space for that to emerge, then we can find grace in one another and we can move on. And
and I love the repeating word that you use because it's so apropos, and that's grace.
Yeah.
Grace. It's just saying it's like, yep.
Yeah. It's the most, I think it's the biggest, most helpful quality that goes across the board in our family with any relationship between me and the kids, because they have grace for me when my oldest daughter, I'm putting her bed together, and it's a loft bed. Nobody else had one like it. I'm setting up these lights under it. I'm like, I felt so good. Like I felt like Daddy Warbucks. I'm like, this is my Annie moment. I'm giving her, you're gonna like it here. This is it. You're gonna do it. And I'm screwing in the final screw for the rail, and I screwed it too far and the wood cracked. I was devastated. Like it was unnaturally devastated. Like my eyes teared up. Like I got like, it was like, and I was like, immediately I heard like a voice say, "You idiot. What were you thinking?" That like mad condemnation came, and she laughed. And she was like, "Dad, you look so sad. It's so cute, but I love this bed." And so like now, like whenever I go inside the room, I'll look at that crack, and that's a crack that my daughter gave me grace for. And so I can have grace for myself. Like almost everything that's an imperfection in our home is there as a moment of grace that we had on each other. My daughter's phone that went into the toilet, which I had to throw away because it went into the toilet. But if it was still here and not stinky, it'd be a point of grace to say, hey, she had grace on me for being upset, and I had grace on her for dropping this in the toilet.
And that's taking that problem into a possibility and receiving it in a way that if there are even just little touches of imperfections, are perfect. Like it's almost a touch of just honoring and gratitude. There's almost a softening. It just diffuses whatever was heavy when you add grace to it. I can see that's kind of like your magic wand is grace.
It has. I think it's the only way, because of all the trauma that each individual in our family has gone through. I think it's the only way to thrive. I'm not going to say survive.
Yeah.
Thrive. I'll say thrive. We're past the point of just making it and having the base survival instincts. I want us to get to a place where we're operating on a higher, people say a higher frequency or higher vibration. And I want to do that. And through that grace is allowing us to do that.
Well, and then you bring it to the world in a way that allows other people to receive the humanity of it, or the just realness of how life shows up, that we're beings and we don't have to hold things against us. Our minds are designed. They're kind of set up like algorithms. You know, they can go into this, like what you did wrong and the negative thinking and all those things. Those are things we've absorbed or have learned, but they're not the truth. But the moment you're onto it, you can add a little grace and it clears it. It sounds like, or do some prayer or just come together. You have all these beautiful coping techniques called the amazing beings around you and all the things that you're being to just clear it quickly. And that's the higher frequency. Then we don't get stuck in the lower, because the lower isn't the truth. That's where the lies exist.
Somebody said, they said this in an Instagram post yesterday. They went, what you have, remember when you were praying for what you have now? And I was like, wow. That takes you out of the mindset of complaining and being ungrateful. My family, the very existence of us as a unit, as a family, is so improbable. It is such a miracle that it even happened, that I sit here and it's from tragedy, like, because it's foster care to adoption. It's not like, you don't go, oh man, this was all meant to be. It really wasn't, but here it is, it exists. But in this existence, this is magical. Like I couldn't calculate and make this happen. So once I look and I see that we are a family, we function as a unit, we actually do have affinity for one another. We love each other.
Yes.
then why am I upset about a broken phone? Why am I upset about the only thing that I'll get upset about is that, like, if there's unsafety, if there's something that's not safe around them or that's brought around them, those are things that I'm very vigilant against. But as far as us being together in our own unit, something happening, like, I'm like, okay, the dog did this on the carpet. Okay. Like, I'll just clean it. Look, there's cleaning products here. Wow, what a blessing, isn't it? That's nice. Oh my, like, there's so much worse that can happen.
It helps it keep it all in perspective.
It
And
helps.
I'm so grateful for the point that you're bringing up on the gratitude, and also how it's not about airy-fairy all the time, or things are like always went the right direction, because consciousness includes everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And if we're present with it all, it's what we do with it and what we create from it. Like, choice creates. And you were willing to choose it, even when you're down in the trenches, even when the world said, don't do it, or hell no, you're not going to make it. Like, you're up to be like, okay, you tell me I can't, I'm choosing it. I'm going to be it, whatever it takes. And every choice creates. And this is what you've created.
Yeah. It's so, they say it's important to speak well over yourself. And it's not always easy. Our thing is, you know, especially people that are really good at being sarcastic, which I am. It's not a great gift to have. I don't utilize it as often as I used to, because it doesn't help. It's funny on TV, but it's not really, it doesn't hold its worth in real life. It leans towards, in a way, I kind of use it to be irreverent so that I don't take things too heavy. But other than that, I try not to be sarcastic to myself in a way that brings myself down. But the things that we state over ourselves and the way that we talk are way more important than we really realize. And when you, just like how you said, you're creating these things, I think words are things. And when you say them, you're creating an intention, you're creating things. So nothing will teach you more about how important the things you say and the way that you state things than childhood, whether it's your own or whether it's the childhood of the ones that are entrusted to you. Yeah. And you remember down to your fiber, the thing that teacher said that made you break down in front of the classroom. You will never forget it. It will always be there with you. And it's our job to make it a lesson so that when we communicate, do we communicate to enrich ourselves, enrich the people around us? It's a battle every single day for a lot of us, but it is what we need to do, because we create the things that are coming into our life.
Yes, well said. And I'll piggyback on that, in that there's ways to say things to convey what we desire in a way that the person can receive it without having to go at the person with it. Like you were talking about earlier about the higher frequency. When you can sit down with your amazing children and say, like, hey, this is what I'm aware of, this is what I'm noticing, I have your back, and have them have choices and be in that space with you. And there's ways to communicate where it's not personal. And I hear that you've really developed a way to do that. And when it's not like that, you'll know it, because we're highly aware when it's not that. So
and my wife hears it. She'll let me know.
She'll let you know.
Yeah, like, hey, okay, all right. You know what? Daddy needs a timeout. Daddy needs a little timeout.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah. And that's really then how we can do it differently, in a way that is in kindness. And it's not always nice. Like I'm always speaking about, or I have spoken about, like the difference between nice and kindness. You know, kindness is a whole different way of being. Nice tends to be, we want to please others to fit a social norm a lot of times. Whereas kindness may be a potent way to show up to someone, say that you care about them, but it may also include some reflection on something that may be heavy. Yeah. So, but that's in kindness, which kind of follows grace, I would say.
Yeah, it does. And I think kindness is a lot more conscious of the relationship than nice is. Like you can be nice to anybody. A lot of times people are nice for an ulterior motive. But kindness isn't about what you receive. It's more about what you give to a person.
Wow. Well, on that note, I would like to finish up our show with maybe some words that you would like to share with our audience, anything you like for them to take with them, or any words of inspiration before we finish up.
I'll say this. For a lot of you, this goes to everybody, whether you're a child or a teen or an adult, and you're about to embark on this new season of going back to school. A lot of the world is kind of reopening up, and there's a lot of uncertainty. It's okay to feel uncertain. It's okay to tell people that you feel uncertain. It's okay to tell people that you're afraid. These are all emotions that are valid. It's okay to have that grace for yourself, that you don't get it right, that you drop your books on the floor and your markers went everywhere. It's okay that you're the mom and you're trying to get the kids in, you can't figure out the car seat that you know how to do, but you just can't figure it out this morning. It's okay, Dad, that the check that you're bringing home or the relationship with your boss might not be going so great today because of the pressures that you're feeling at home and the obligations. It's okay to the working mom that you're getting back into the work and you're feeling like you miss your kids again and all of that. These are okay. And it's okay to have grace on that because you're going to make it. You put one foot in front of the other one and you keep moving forward and you're going to get to that place of peace. You're going to get to that place of life-giving thought that you have for yourself. And I'm proud of you that you made it this far and just keep going forward. You're going to make it.
Wow. That's so heartfelt, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And well, I just so thoroughly enjoyed this, Jason. What a gift to have you on. And I would really love to have you on again if you'd be open to joining us here.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so grateful for that. And I wonder, I always like to ask that question. I wonder what else is possible now.
Yeah, who knows?
Who
knows?
knows?
I don't know. Like you're starting this podcast. Who knows? You might be on Oprah the next time I see you. I have no clue. So
wow. Well,
don't
just like you,
don't
I'm
limit
open
your
to receiving.
possibilities of where your horizons will take you either. Because yeah, you are good at what you do, and I'm very glad to have been able to talk to you. I can feel the kindness coming back from you. So this has been a really safe space here for me today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Well,
Thank you.
Continued.
All right, to be continued. All right.
Thank you for being with us today. And be sure to join us next time for more conversations and insights into some of your favorite influencers. Now, don't forget to join me, Dr. Sarah, anywhere I'm on social media. And always, always, always remember that I have your back.